All right, here we go. I'm Pat,
Hey, I'm Jeffrey.
and we're back.
We're back. Um, yeah, and you were talking about this self-evaluation, yeah?
Yeah. So, this is the first time I've actually been asked to write my own,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to sort of like somebody else writing it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good at what I do. And so it's like really hard to write this without like getting completely over my skis on it.
Well, I guess I would ask you this. From a from an honest standpoint, I mean, if you're evaluating yourself, you evaluate yourself honestly. Is there anything that you look at and say, "Yeah, hey, I wish I did do this better"?
Oh yeah, yeah, no,
All right.
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
but those are minor things.
Yeah, but
So,
that's yeah, no, that's
yeah, no. It's just like for so many years, man. Look at my student evaluations, like pull the stats, like how much higher is my rating on this class as opposed to somebody else, stuff like that. It's always been pretty high.
okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But now that I have access to everybody's, yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
weird, man.
Oh, okay, okay. No, that is different. Okay,
It's
yeah,
totally
yeah, yeah.
weird, man. Now I realize it's like, oh my God, you were doing what?
Okay, I got you.
And I don't know, man. I love my colleagues on a certain level. I really do.
Okay,
And some are quite good at what they do.
sure.
So, but now that I can see everybody's stuff,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh my God, I was that much higher than these guys on these like performance reports. Yeah. And it was like, well, what do I say about this? Do I flaunt this or do I try and justify it? I don't know, man. So,
That's a great question. Are you supposed to use that data in analysis of your own performance?
well, no. And see, that's the
Then
thing.
no.
Is well, yeah. So, but Jeff, when you're the guy in the hospital who cures all the diseases
Uh-huh.
and you work with a bunch of people who don't, and now you can see that all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Bro,
okay.
it's I've never done anything like this in my career. It is absolutely mind blowing. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Well, congratulations. I mean, that's like
I
what the
suppose, man, but
to
it's
see.
also like there's this piece of it is like what am I not sharing with my colleagues? So what is the magic thing that I've figured out that they have not? So
Well,
or
oh,
am I just like nerfing everybody? I don't know.
well. So the first question would
So
be: is there anything in particular that you do squat on that you say this is mine and mine alone?
hmm.
Like anything that
Yeah,
you
no,
would.
you're right about that. There's a couple classes that I just squat and maybe everybody else like uses it as a post up.
Well, so I mean, if
Yeah,
there's anything that number one that you consider a Patrick trade secret that is something that guarantees your spot, well then, all right, that's fine. But I mean, the other
mm,
thing is, are there, shall I say, are there any intangibles that you possess that you don't think would cross over to um,
mm.
learning on another?
That's a good question. I hadn't thought about that.
Because I mean, there's any number of things that there's any number of things that you can teach a person, but I mean, there are certain things that are sort of inherent to a person's not just, it's not just, their attitude, their, whatever. A lot of that has to do with who you are as a person, right? It's your appearance, it's how you use your
Hmm.
presence, it's how you know, the exact same thing from two different people, if they have a different, tone of voice, can be completely different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's the question. Would you say that more of that is to skills or to intangibles? The
Mm. Yeah, no, that's a good
state
point.
of being who
I
you
hadn't
are.
really thought about that. So fortunately, I have another day to write this up. So, but no, you're right about that. There's like certain things that. So I always try to meet my students on their level.
Sure.
So I
Yeah.
know where you guys are at. I've been there. So I get this. I want you to hear, which
Okay.
is
Okay.
yeah. And maybe like some of my colleagues aren't doing it. I don't know. So I don't know. Maybe I'll be that way after I've been on tenure track for 10 years. I have no idea. So
Possibly, but I mean, be realistic, about your own, about your own evaluation, not necessarily on the tenure track, but I mean, this is year what
one.
well, no, of service.
Fuck. 12?
Well, okay, so you're past the decade marker
What
at
is
this
it,
point.
2024?
Yeah. Just
Yeah, no, I've been teaching at the same institution for 10 years. So,
okay.
but
So
then I did it 4 years before that, too.
okay, so 14.
Total?
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll call it 13. Yeah,
13.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Are you counting all the learning time you spent with middle school and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so 13. All right. So you're 13 years in of your life at this point. So I guess my question would be, you know, how different is the tenure track going to change your like, do you see your effort just falling off a cliff just because you're tenured? I don't think so. I
No,
don't.
it's actually ramped up.
That's what I'm saying. I don't
Yeah.
really see any particular drop off in performance as a result of
So
the
the thing of being on
accomplishment.
tenure track that's different than before. And I don't know if you did this because I know you were on tenure track for a year or two there. So, well, no, I know. But,
Nobody is for the first 3 years, but
well, correct. But you're trying to get your students where you want them to be.
yeah.
I guess I've gotten better at fighting off my colleagues on certain things.
I'll give you an example. What do you mean fighting off your colleagues?
Okay,
Fighting them off how?
so a lot of my colleagues are really like sticklers for protocol, performance. You didn't do what I said, kind of thing.
Okay.
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 And so I've gotten a lot more point in time where I was like, okay, I want to teach you this, and I'm going to teach you this the way that I feel you can learn it best.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's like, it involves a different level of assessment. Like, so let me give you an example of this.
Yeah.
So this is old school. This is old school English teacher stuff. Okay. But I'm much more a fan of oral defense now than I used to be. So
Compared to written?
yes, absolutely. So
Okay.
like today I had a class and they can do like a bunch of stuff online
Uh-huh.
with discussion forums and things like that. But you know what was really fun today?
What?
Was just like asking the prompt that I asked them online, but then like listening to their responses in class, and then just like, yeah, okay, you're thinking about this. Here's your points, kind of thing. As opposed to it's whether or not you like posted an initial on Wednesday and then two responses by Sunday, kind of thing. It was just way more intimate. So, and like judging by the quality of the responses that they can do in class. So they're way better.
Well, okay, so there's a term for that. I'm trying to remember what it is because I'm quite out of that game. But I mean, it's what do they call it? It's basically different ways of measuring competency,
Correct.
right? So is that something that you have incorporated in your work? I mean, is that something that you've
Well, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that because like today's responses were like highest quality, like but still at the same point in time it was like very low effort on their part. So I don't know if I'm actually measuring effort or competency on these things. So and the competency today was fan fucking tastic. So
well, what do you want? What's more important to you?
competency, yeah.
Okay, is there anything in your class that they can't get through competency alone?
I don't think so.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Then shoot, I see no other reason to prioritize it except for the possibility that if, say, for example, the entire rest of your staff does not believe in that model, and
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
and that's to say, listen, that's not to say that's something you should even consider because when all said and done, right? it's your class. Teach it how you want to.
Well, yeah, that's what tenure's done for me, man. It's
Well, yeah,
fantastic.
so obviously,
Yeah.
I mean, so if people had come to you with some sort of, intervention plan and said, "Hey, you're not meeting this, this, and this," then yes, I would understand
Yeah,
that. But
yeah, yeah,
nobody
yeah.
seems to be doing that with you. So,
Well, not yet, but I mean,
I mean,
after
it seems
COVID.
less likely
Well, yeah, definitely
now
after COVID.
than
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, no, like the students that I have right now, and I got 22 in this one really, really awesome class,
Mhm.
and I, I am blown away by these guys. They're all there, so they want to be there. They're not interested in answering online discussion formats, but if I do it in class, they're like, "Hey, I've got all these ideas. I want to share them with you." It's like,
Okay,
"Yes, please, please."
sure,
Yeah,
sure,
and so no, no, no. You've done way more than what I asked from my online classes.
right.
And so bang, here's your points. You're good. But let's talk about that. That's interesting. So, and tell me about like how much working at Sonic sucks. Kind of
Well, that's the
thing.
point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're basically it's a different way to measure the synthesis of information, and
Exactly.
as long as you're comfortable with it. I mean, because you could then turn around and so let's say that you wanted to meet both parameters of this for record keeping, right? You wanted to be able to say
Well,
this,
that's a
right?
challenge, yeah.
Well,
You understand that. Yeah.
I do. So I don't know how strictly you are on that, but I mean the alternative, right, is if you have that discussion and you turn around and you say that's magnificent. Okay, all right, all of you, 5 minutes, just write down what you talked about,
Sure.
right?
Yes.
So that's something where if you felt like you wanted to, have a physical record of something like that, then all right, I guess you could. But if you have the wherewithal to be able to keep track of, okay, this person said this on this day, ergo that means he gets it, and I can remember that and put a check mark by it, shoot, that's fine.
Yeah, well, that's the online model. You
Well,
posted by Thursday, you responded by Saturday,
yeah,
you did another one by Sunday.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. So I was actually having a debate with one of my colleagues about this today. So just based upon the lines, it was like, hey man, the kids that we have today, they want to be engaged. They don't want to do this via Zoom. They don't want to do this via fucking
Sure,
posts
yeah.
and stuff. And I was like, I can do this for them. So I don't know, man. It was just weird. It was a good day. It was a really
sounds
good
awesome,
day.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
it was a really good day,
I'm
man.
very happy for you, man.
Bro, I know you love teaching too. And so like,
That's to a point.
well, no, I know, but like back when you're doing like your English class and stuff like that, if you had a class who's really into the whatever it is that you're teaching, whether it be Hamlet or fucking Frankenstein or whatever, it was awesome when they read the shit and they were interested in the shit. And that's what I had today. And it was a good day. Just because of that. So
Treasure it, man. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's one to
Yeah.
take a mental snapshot and look over briefly before you die. I don't know how many I don't know how many photos in your mental photo album you want to just peruse over as you cross over into the next realm, but
There's a
I would
few
say
here and
I'd
there.
say that's a good
Yeah.
one to
There's been a few here and there.
Yeah.
Today was one of those. So yeah, I'll take it.
yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, fucking Twitter.
Okay, you said you had an issue. All right, what is this?
Bro, last week we had a really good discussion about the border.
Okay, right.
There was a really good, like, deep level, like, let's think about this shit stuff going on with the border with Texas and everybody else. And then, like several people chiming in. And then all of a sudden, fucking Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift showed up and it just wiped all that out.
Yeah.
And that really pisses me off because we were getting really close to actually like, okay, let's figure this shit out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Right.
And so, like, I don't know, last 2 days is like people that I respect and I like on Twitter had to talk about that as opposed towards the border. And what the fuck, man? I don't get it. So I was like, wait a minute, this is a like serious policy discussion. And then all of a sudden, nah, it's not. Yeah, like it's like the fucking murder crows moved somewhere else.
Right, right.
Yeah. So because like I actually started looking into it quite a bit, and I was like, yeah, this policy is bullshit, and what you guys got going on here, that's bad. But then all of a sudden it was like, okay, so like every person, with the exception of Glenn Greenwald,
Right.
who I actually his stock went up in my ledger a couple points the other day
Mm-hmm.
because he fucking murdered this guy named Destiny.
Oh yeah.
Do you know Destiny?
Well, he's been a streamer for years. Yeah.
Well, apparently he still is.
Yeah.
And so, like, I watched his entire, like, 3-hour debate with that guy, like, 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Glenn Greenwald, okay, so I don't agree with him on Gaza. So.
No, but the nice thing is when it comes to evaluating the views of other people, right? It's generally about a preponderance of evidence,
Sure.
or if it's something where you can tell that a person's methodology is sound, but perhaps it takes them in two different directions than you do, right? As we talked
Yes.
about, we made certain concessions, last week about the border itself, right? And we both
Sure.
had
Yeah.
very different conclusions about what we felt was necessary, but we both came from the same place.
Bro,
right?
I've moved closer to where you are, so on that. So,
Well,
I have. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the one thing I can't tolerate at this moment is basically the failure to acknowledge that it's a problem, right? So
Oh, yeah. Yep.
the news that I can't stand at this point is basically the contrary term saying this isn't a big deal. It's like, well,
Yeah,
okay, then
it's a
what do
big
you
fucking deal.
what do you
Yeah.
define as a big deal then? What would you consider a big deal? But
Yes.
you're absolutely onto something here. So if somebody is willing to, if they've looked at something clearly and they've made a point, even that I disagree with, right? But they're coming at it from an honest perspective, I can't fault them for it, right?
Correct.
So although I may disagree with Greenwald's position on Gaza, it's fine. It's not going to stop me from listening to him. And in case in point, what you're talking about there, the absolute dismantling of a entire ideological pillar in the process of about 17 seconds that he did was absolutely amazing. When he broke down a few things he talked about, but the other one,
January 6th or what?
the January 6th one was probably
Dude, I am totally on board with Greenwald's entire analysis of that. Yeah.
that took exactly like a minute and 30 seconds. I'm like, well, that's exactly it.
Correct.
So yeah, this is it that. All right. So this is the journalistic part that's tough, right? There's a certain decision that you have to make as independent journalists, right? Because if you work for a total rag like the Washington Post, right? Well,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
it doesn't. Okay. The thing is, it doesn't necessarily afford you the opportunity to just plant and say like, well, I'm going to write about what I want to write about because your editor is going to jump in there, right? You'll have some freedom with
Sure.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have the backing of knowing that, hey, if I don't get paid attention today, right, that's not it for me, right?
Okay.
But if you're an independent journalist, you have this weird sort of like in the middle decision to make where you say, all right, am I going to basically get in here and try to control the flow of the river, or am I going to let the river take me where it needs to go? And so if the hot news today is Travis Kelce and his stupid girlfriend, right? Then as far as being staying on top of the media and reporting on it, then you might need to take the flow, or you can say like, no, fuck all that. This is not important to me. That's your decision to make.
Well, that's kind of where
I can't fault anybody either way, because if the argument here is whatever is news, I will report on it, right?
Right. Well, and I mean that's the thing about the news where it went in the last couple of days was just going towards that fucking drain sink.
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so I got to be blunt with about this on some time. Democrats have stepped on a lot of rakes.
They're the ones that laid them out, man.
Well, and exactly, and you get to deserve to step on each one of them. But like, I'm seeing like the right starting to step on this rake too, and it's like, fucking stop that, man. We had like a legit, kind of like thing that we need to talk about, which is the border. So then all of a sudden, over the course of 3 fucking days, it's just like it got fucking like cleaned from my feed.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just got like absolutely flooded with Taylor Swift. I was like, bro, we were like on target last week. So talking about this and actually like trying to figure out what's going on here, and watching like, okay, so these guys want this and these guys want that. All right, this is a legit debate. Let's do this. And then all of a sudden, just nothing. I'm sorry, it's not sexy enough. Whatever. So it was weird, man. All right, so I don't know where your Twitter like spectrum is, but I got some hard right guys, some very hard left guys,
Yeah.
that I watch, but everybody was talking about this all of a sudden,
Yeah. Yeah.
as opposed towards the border. So, or like this fucking shit that's going on with Iran. So, yeah, and it was just like, oh, okay, no, it all has to do with Taylor Swift and Jason Kelsey or whatever.
Travis. Yeah.
Well, no, fucking walrus gut guy and stuff.
Why is he such a big deal to you?
He's not. He's not, man. It's just it's a convenient crossover between the 2 points of view. All right, so no, I don't have any I don't have too much hate towards that. I get a little bit, but So, but still, at the same point in time, it's like this is a fucking football game.
Yep.
All right, there are bigger things than football games going on.
Considerably, yes.
But we're going to talk about football games.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about like, okay, who endorses Joe Biden versus who not, and how much like fucking she, gets people to register a Democrat over the weekend and stuff like that. It was like, and then Donald Trump saying like, oh, well, I'm more popular. It was like, you guys are not serious about this right now. There are way bigger fucking deals going on at this point in time. The border being one of them, and we were focused on that last week, and then all of a sudden not. And it's like, Jesus Christ, really? So, I mean, do we just shake the Etch-a-Sketch every fucking 15 seconds? What's going on here, man?
Well, I mean, it's not as though this is something that happened in isolation here. I mean, I've mentioned this before. Things do get overshadowed, and that happens sometimes. Like, so the Gary Condit Chandra-Levy thing was a huge issue that was wiped away.
I remember that
immediately when a couple of planes hit the World Trade Center. Now, I'm not saying that this is necessarily equivalent.
These are not equivalent,
right?
Yeah,
but
no, I get your point.
That was basically the entire news situation, and that disappeared. My argument here is that I don't think the border situation is going to go anywhere. As a matter of fact, I agree. Think about this. Like, sometimes, like, taking a break from something actually builds up the anticipation. So, for example, this is where it comes close to home. If you've been reading about our local problems with this, specifically
regarding the Aurora and Denver, yeah.
So this is the kind of shit that
those actually hit the local news, so I watch them.
So even if it disappears from the national scene for a second, and I guarantee it's going to come back, that problem is coming to a theater near you, right? It is what it is, man.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
And as it stands, as of right now, there are still 25 governors signed on that said, I support, what Abbott is doing down here. That didn't change, right?
No, but it didn't break the United States into a new fucking civil war, which was the main theme last week. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all of a sudden, Kelsey's and Swifts show up, and it's like, yeah, it's fine. We're more interested in this shit now. So, yeah.
Well, okay, so I will give it credit for this. I mean, this is news, so you're like, all right, so you're talking about essentially the biggest star in music right now, and you're talking about the biggest television event of the entire year, right? So I mean, yeah, of course
okay.
there's going to
Yeah,
be some
yeah.
crossover with this, just because I don't give a fuck, just because like
But it's just a blip. Is that what
I
you're
would
saying?
think so.
Yeah, okay.
I would think so. Look, this is the funny thing is like for all the talk about like Taylor Swift and all this other bullshit, right? What I can tell you is that her star in history is basically minuscule compared to what actual stars have had in the past, right? She's not Elvis Presley. She is
Yeah,
not,
okay.
you know, this is the so as of right now, it's the one thing that people think they can glom onto, right? It's the one of the last gaps of big celebrities. Because I mean, you have talked about this before, right? Celebrity doesn't mean shit anymore. It's the with all of the talent stretched so thin over so many projects between
Sure.
30 streaming services and stuff like that. Nobody is getting big. That's they're desperately.
No, yeah, and Ben Shapiro hit to the top of the fucking.
I don't know what's I
didn't even listen to it, man.
I have no
I just
idea.
saw it.
That's,
And I've seen so many like tweets and posts and like dick waving about that. It's okay, so yeah, all right, so
I get it, bro.
you're the best guy in the retard club. Got it.
Perhaps, man. Look, man. So yes, I get that. All three of
biggest man on the short bus. Got it. Yeah.
All three of the Beastie Boys were Jewish, but that doesn't mean necessarily that it's inherent in the culture. So I don't know. It's not something that would interest me. But whatever. If you had fun with it, go knock yourself out. I don't care. But
I know, but like, so this thing in the Middle East.
Yeah.
That's fucking serious.
Of course it's serious.
Yeah, Joe Biden is starting to try and get us into another war. That's bad.
Look, man.
That's real fucking bad.
Okay, so here's my particular issue. So, number one, just to go back to what you were saying, the first aspect of Joe Biden saying, I want to protect the border, but you guys aren't letting me pay for it. Go fuck yourself, right?
Oh no, he's totally on the wrong side.
That's his current strategy. Where
I will concede all those points.
Pay for Israel and pay for Ukraine, and then I'll pay for the border. All right, screw you.
Yeah, well, and I'd close the border tomorrow if I could. It was like you could do it today with a stroke of a pen. Fuck off.
You're absolutely lying, and I hate you for it. Number two, the escalation of things in Iran. Again, this is. That plus basically the clamp down on basically like media, everything here, everything he's doing is everything
you lump a lot of things together here, but I got you.
Well, no, because the reason I'm lumping it together is because that the warmongering, that kind of stuff, he's doing everything that he said Donald Trump would do. But Donald Trump didn't do those things.
Yeah. Well, except for. Alu Akubu Arbar.
What?
Died like a dog. The leader of ISIS. Yeah. No,
yeah.
I get it, man. Kind of coming around to your point that I don't think he's actually like in control that much anymore.
I don't think so at all either.
Yeah. No, I'm coming around to that. I still think that he's got like a little bit of say.
Yeah.
In what's going on. But, like, it's all solidified my position that I don't think he's actually going to be on a ticket this fall. So...
Well, they got...
I'm curious about that. So, because they got to be looking at the polling numbers, which are horrifyingly bad.
Yeah.
Like, historically bad for any incumbent president.
Yeah.
So, even, like... George Herbert Walker Bush, great going into it, and then all of a sudden recession, bad.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
George Walker Bush, going into 2004, where why isn't Iraq stitched up? All right? So even John McCain challenged him on that ticket, and then he beat him off. Okay, not that bad. Joe Biden's numbers right now are the lowest that we've seen since LBJ. So the Democrats got to be cooking something up. They got to be.
This is
they got to be.
Well, yeah, so, that was the thing was.
But who are they going to get?
Well, that was what they were talking about. It was I can't remember who O'Keefe met with. You know, the Veritas guy where he does the interviews from behind thing. Well,
He
kind of.
does, yeah.
Well, so I know he was talking to one of the dudes on. This was the gotcha thing. They talked about what they have to do is they are looking for other candidates, and they're not expecting
What are they
what
going to do with Dean Phillips or what?
didn't say. What
Yeah,
they're
okay.
saying is this is where they're handcuffed. Is they asked Michelle Obama, and she says, "No, I saw the shit that my husband went through, and absolutely not. I don't want anything to do with it."
I think they're cooked. They're done.
What they did say was that they have to. They're handcuffed right now. They said that even though nobody likes her, we have to leave Harris as the VP.
Yeah, I seen that too.
That he said like despite that she's like an anchor. Nobody likes her, but you cannot throw this person out because of her particular
So they're just going to
demographics.
try and burn it all down and see what they can do in 2028? I don't know.
Well, what they're saying is they're looking for a different president to run, but Harris to run as VP.
I don't know, man. I think their only hope is to actually do an actual coup during the fucking
The DNC and
the DNC, and they got to plug in fucking RFK Jr. So,
man, but I
and
gotta tell you
I
that
seen all that stuff too, man. Yeah,
that dude spits in the eye of what so many people have been espousing on the far left for.
they have to cut those people loose.
I agree with
have
you.
to.
What I can tell you is those guys are the ones that are basically in charge of Joe Biden's cabinet.
Well, they're trying to keep that alive, but I mean, this is something that's on like fucking. They got to pull the cord eventually. Yeah, I know, man. So like, I don't know, man. I do keep a pretty good like tab on that far end of the left, and they are so out over their skis on Israel. There was new polling data the other day that was talking about like, well, do we give too much, not enough, or just right amount of support to Israel? It's going up. You know, in terms of like, yeah, actually, we should give them a little bit more because that's fucked up. That's what's going on there. And so you have this like shrinking piece of the far left who is so there are like two groups that I am convinced at this point in time they're fucking bad for America. That's one of them. And the Michael Malice, like fucking, you know, like super hard libertarian right is the other one. So these are both people who just want to burn the fucking mothership down. So, and then, but then that leaves the rest of us was like, actually, you know what? I don't mind paying taxes. I like the fact that my daughter's school district ain't bad. So, and you know what? Like building more Tomahawk missiles is probably a good idea. So what these two groups are doing is pushing us in that direction. So, and all honestly, a lot of this is falling on Donald Trump's shoulders. So, because he's like, I like missiles. We can sell a lot of missiles.
Man, look, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna.
you know, but still, well, I don't even care. I'm not even gonna call him a businessman, man. He's like complete chauvinist, fucking narcissistic pig. So, but he's ours. You know? So, whereas Joe Biden, I mean, okay, so I'm going to give his administration some props in somewhere, and some of the audience might not like this. All right, so yeah, all right, so Chips Act, great, that's good.
Sure. You
Yeah,
talked
that's
about that before.
really,
Yeah,
really fucking good.
absolutely, sure.
Okay, Infrastructure Act. I'm sorry, I drive I-25 every single day. It's great. I drove it up north last week. It's fine. So thank
All
you.
right, there
Thank
you
you,
go.
Joe Biden and your DOT, whatever. Okay, and stuff like that. But getting in a war with Iran, bad.
Terrible.
So yeah, terrible.
What exactly are you hoping to accomplish?
I don't know, man. It's probably just like kind of defending the way things were for a while. So, but really, when it comes down to it, it's like Saudis have a lot of money. They should use some of that. Fucking fuck up those Houthis and stuff like that. You know, like the whole thing in the Suez Canal. You know who that fucks up worse than anybody else?
I don't know.
Fucking the Egyptians.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they pull down a couple $1 million each ship that goes through there, and all of a sudden, like Maersk, United, and even the Chinese companies say, okay, we'll sail down around Africa. Okay, so what are we really gonna worry about these fucking pirates? Come on, stop that. And then on top of it, if they shut down the Strait of Hormuz, so the Iranians do that, who's that fuck up more than anybody else? The Saudis. Let them take care of it. So, yeah, I mean, America is like 100% energy independent now.
We are, but
We are.
this you mentioned specifically. Actually, this was something that William brought up to me the other day, right? So compared to when I was in the oil biz, right? Because he mentioned that a friend of ours is going to be working on a rig in Alaska, right?
Okay.
And not close to any of the big cities. So this is remote Alaska. It is one of three rigs that is remaining in the Rocky Mountain region when we had tons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the funny thing is that the price of oil is actually a good spot, right? We'd love to see it at 100 if you're in that business. But I mean, considering it's like profitable at like 45 and it's like at around 80, right? That you would expect to see drillers out there, but they're not. Because
not?
There's a ban on the export of gasoline.
Of gasoline, or
That's yeah, okay,
I
so
thought it was natural gas. So, yeah, you might be right.
I don't know why that
So I thought Biden shut down like several initiatives to actually start exporting natural gas to Europe. So I think it was gasoline. No, I might be wrong about that.
yeah, okay, so natural gas is one of them, but I thought there was a yeah, I thought there was also basically like reductions on selling gasoline, and we need to be exporting that stuff if we make it. I mean,
Yeah, no, I thought we always did export gasoline. Our biggest problem
well,
for
oil.
years was, well, no, that's two different things.
Yes, but
So like, yeah, we'd always take in oil and then refine it into gasoline. Then I always thought we were a net exporter of gasoline. So, because there's only a few places in the world that actually produce gasoline. Us is one. India is another. So, but still, at the same point in time, I mean, there's it's like not really a good reason to actually get involved with the war with Iran.
hell no.
No, and like Israel, like, oh man, I watched this whole video the other day on what they've actually done at Gaza. It's like 2/3 rubble now.
Yep.
So yeah, fucking bulldoze it in the sea.
As far as I'm concerned, they've got 1/3 to go.
Right? Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, man. I've been watching all these guys like, try and gyrate around about like, open air prisons and. But like, at what point in time does your population actually take responsibility for your government? So,
Great question.
especially in a place like Gaza, you can buy guns. So, I mean, whatever, man. So it's that is such a shit show in terms of like absolutely splintering the left on certain things that, I mean, and really when it comes down to it, it's like a fucking pimple. So
Oh yeah.
it's not a great source of contention amongst those other. I mean, fucking Egypt's got like freaking razor wire.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So, and even the Saudis are still engaged in like talks down there and stuff. It's just bananas. I mean, like, okay, so let me back that up a little bit. All right, so Ukraine is a problem. Okay, so the Russians are malefactors. They are totally malefactors. So, you invade somebody's backyard, you want to annex their backyard. That's bad. So the last thing that we want to do is actually tell them, yeah, we need to take a little bit of backyard, because they might take somebody else's backyard that's bad. So, but still, at the same point in time, over the last year and a half, we've enlisted Finland into NATO.
Mm-hmm.
Finland will fuck Russia up. So Poland has bought bazillions of shells and tanks and all kinds of things from South Korea, who apparently make great stuff. All right. So maybe that's a little bit short up. Got it.
Well, all right, so there's a couple of things with the Ukraine situation that are problematic from just what you described there. Number one is we've been in positions before where we said that, well, this place has said they needed some living space, and so they're going to take
Lebensraum?
Yeah. Some living space.
All right, let me get my shoes
So I have a little bit of a problem with that. But the secondary component is this is when they broke down the finance. They said, why hasn't this endeavor broken Russia completely financially? And well, again, it goes back to our friends the Chinese, because they have been selling all of their oil and gas to them for huge profit because they've cut off Europe, right? And so that is one of the ways they're able to continue financing this fucking charade and not going broke as a result of it.
Yeah, no, that's part of it. The other part of it is they've taken a lot of their consumer economy and like turned it towards like building 152 millimeter shells. So
right.
No, I get that. So, but inflation is rampant in Russia right now. It's like way crazier than it is here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the question is like, how long can Putin sustain this? But still, at the same point in time, as long as he's got a foothold during Ukraine, politically, he's safe. Now, does that mean that he can actually go somewhere else in the long run? Probably not. So
there are seemingly people. There's nobody that's going to be taken by surprise if he were to show up on the door. This isn't again.
If he shows up in Estonia, we all know.
Yeah. So the whatever's going to happen there is going to happen. There's like as far as I'm concerned, the nudging back and forth. I don't know. This is like.
So my position is simple on this one. It's like, all right, so we need to build more. We need to beef up our industrial capacity when it comes to fighting wars. So
we can't get people in the military.
No, that's fine. So, but no, I mean, we need the industrial capacity to actually build those shells and stuff like that. So if Ukraine takes our old shells and we can backfill that, that's fine with me. So
no, that's fine.
I have no problem with that.
I know what you're saying with that.
I have no problem with that. So, like the military is a little bit different. So in terms of this, yes. So I think we're probably a little bit overextended. So both the Navy and the Army have been having trouble meeting their like recruiting requirements. There's a thing last week about the Navy like not requiring people to get like their high school diplomas.
Yeah.
We've done that many times. We've done that many, many times.
But generally, I mean, they're under different circumstances, yeah?
Yes, but still at the same point in time, you got a smaller generation coming in this year than like 2 years ago in terms of people who turn 18 in the United States. So, okay, fine. All right, so if you got some boys, who grew up in the hood in fucking Baltimore and didn't get their GEDs, yeah, induct. All right, you'll get them. So, and they didn't change the ASVAB standards either. So, yeah, that's fine. So, yeah, that's good opportunities for people who can actually get the fuck out of those communities. So, pull them on up. Yeah, that's totally cool. I don't think that makes the Navy weak. It's probably based upon the fact that there's just too many ships out there for what we can actually fucking do. So, but that's a different question.
What do we want to do? That's the big, we've talked about the Navy's role as basically securing the trade routes around this globe. But at the same time, here is that what we really want to do? Is this something that we want to do?
That's a valid question.
All right, I'll put it to you this way.
That's a valid question.
Okay, so this is my sort of like all or nothing, kind of thing. Is All right. Well, if you're going to entrust one power to basically patrol this and basically police this on the globe, you know what? You got it. And if we're going to go into that with that mentality, then boom, let's do it. Let's go all in. And
We're not going to do that, though.
but we're not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we can't do that, right, then how do we accomplish this on a global level and say, all right, well, we all need to chip in?
Well, the Red Sea is a good like test case for that. So the French have been escorting their ships to the Red Sea. Well, and the French Navy is not something to shake a stick at. It's pretty badass. So
No, I'm not shitting on it. I'm saying that's
no, but that's the point. There, it's like okay, so you got a few Maersk ships that go through the Red Sea, and they get protected by like the U.S. Navy, who's getting pretty good at dealing in Iranian drone parts.
sure.
At this point in time. But at what point in time do we turn around and say to the the Saudis, is like, hey, you're gonna run a tanker through here? That's gonna cost you.
Which we don't do. We don't.
Not yet. Not yet. But I mean, like, you just like follow the trajectory, that's where it's going. So
Well, that's what I'm saying is
Yeah.
if we're going to provide this service, right, then hey, you can either chip in your own crews and your own equipment, or you can chip in financially, right?
or you can just figure it out. Yeah.
Or you can figure it out. But I mean, this is it's not like this hasn't happened before. I mean, like the fucking Templars used to charge for protection along the way. On these,
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. I don't take 1,000-year-old examples.
No. But that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
no, I
If-
gotcha.
if you're providing a service, if other nations are gonna rely on this because they can't do it or won't do that, say like, hey, you know what? We're gonna go ahead and protect all of your shipping lanes, which means we're gonna ramp up production. We're gonna go ahead and recruit. We're gonna do this.
Well, that's where China needs to step in. So we spent a lot of money actually protecting Chinese shipping. That's bullshit. So
Yeah, and
yeah, a lot of
China is in so much trouble now.
it. They are.
The Evergrande situation
It is terrible.
is imploding.
Bro, you imagine like sinking
30%.
$40,000 into a place that hasn't been built yet, and then all of a sudden it's not going to get built. So fuck that. I mean, bro, I've been watching the China guys the last couple of weeks. They are like banging the gong as hard as they can about like, oh, this is fucking bad.
This is really bad.
It's really, really bad.
It's 30% of their economy
and-
is tied up in this fucking shell game, and it's
It's more than that. It's like 60%. Yeah.
crumbling out from under their
But bro,
feet.
if
right
you
now.
imagine if your parents like work their asses off and actually put that much money into like a future down payment on something that doesn't even exist.
Okay, look, here's a
Dude, I can't imagine that.
no, I can imagine that because we have a precedent for that sort of thing in our own past.
When?
So go back to the 30s when all of that money
okay, all right.
fucking evaporated, right? And my question is, Patrick, right? And again, this is debated by scholars, right?
So you have like a dust bowl in fucking China?
What did it take to actually sort of rectify that situation here? It's argued on both sides, right?
It is.
But that's the thing here is if that's even a fraction of what you're facing, and I think it's going to be worse than it actually is.
You're probably right.
Right? You are looking at basically like systematic implosion.
Well, and see, that's why I'm scared. Like, I don't have that many, right? Like, I've tamped down all the climate change stuff. I've gone through all that.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as people say it is. Okay?
Yeah.
So, I've gone through, like, a number of financial situations and stuff like that. There's not going to be a housing collapse in America like it was in 2008.
Right.
Again, that's fine. Crypto could evaporate tomorrow. It's not going to really take that much of a bite out of the American economy.
No.
A little bit, but yeah. All right. So, what if I'm Xi Jinping
Right.
and if I've got 30% unemployment
Yeah.
amongst my young male constituency?
Yes. The beating heart of your labor force.
That beating heart, and there's one last shot that I have.
Yeah.
And then I look back at World War II and I say,
Yeah.
what stimulated everybody's economy?
Okay, that's a thought.
That's fucking terrifying, man. And then I look at Taiwan, who is not willing to defend themselves. They buy submarines rather than fucking empads. So, because they think, oh, submarines make us strong, as opposed towards shoulder-fired missiles, which are cheap and numerous,
Right.
uh,
And effective.
and effective. Okay, as opposed towards one submarine, which would be sunk in an afternoon.
Right.
So, um, and if I'm going to look at it from Xi Jinping's standpoint, it's like, well, wait a minute. I've got like hundreds, thousands of shore-based anti-naval missiles. And if I watch the Houthis fuck up the entire world economy with a couple of fucking $1,500 drones, what can I do in the South China Sea with this? And can I mobilize tens, thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of young men and put them in the employ of the army? It's fucking scary, man.
Yeah,
I fucking hate it.
It's well, I mean,
hate it.
No,
because if I was playing him in Hearts of Iron, I would totally goddamn do this.
Number one, all right. So just number one, the first things foremost, I'm going to put your actual strategic mind against Xi Jinping any day of the week. My understanding is he's kind of a fucking hillbilly, right?
Well, yeah, no, you're right about that.
So when it comes down to just general strategy, I wouldn't necessarily count on that being something that he puts together, right?
Okay.
I can see that maybe he could be talked into it, but I can also see that, like, all right, the biggest problem that you have here is you're taking a class of people that, remember, who are the people that just had the wool pulled out, the rug pulled out from underneath them? Those same people that you want to get in your army, right?
Okay. Yeah, no, you're right.
So there's a question of, are these people going to be basically gutsy enough to be like, okay, well, you know what? Yes, I definitely want to serve. I definitely want to do this. What I can tell you is we currently, under the situation as now, right? Just to go back to our little border situation, we have people from that country sneaking into this country via South America right now.
A lot of them.
Right?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Take that same bullshit and multiply it by whatever fuck up is going to be going on with that, right? And multiply that by 10,000. Multiply that by escaping into any number of different countries at that point. Nobody's going to want to serve in that dog shit army if you're the government already fucked me. I'm broke. My family is broke. Everybody in my family is broke. That money evaporated on me. And you're telling me to go ahead and get killed in Taiwan? What are you, crazy?
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
I mean,
if that's the one person who understands your paycheck, I don't know. So I think they'd be able to get enough of them to try it. And so here's my problem with the fall election here. Okay.
All right.
I don't see a good way out of this. Maybe it'll unfold in the future. Joe Biden remains president. So your national security guys, your neocons, or whoever, are still in there. They're going to park their cop cars across the street from Taiwan.
Okay.
Xi Jinping's not going to try and take it without taking out the cops across the street.
Right.
Which means we're catching missiles in fucking Saipan, Guam, Philippines.
Okay.
We're in.
Right.
At that point in time. Okay, bad.
Well, that
bad.
gets the whole theater involved, yeah. So, I mean...
Well, and Japan's already committed to the defense of Taiwan.
They
if that actually happens, regardless of whether or not Joe Biden is president or not, Japan will build fucking nuclear weapons over the weekend. They could put those together faster than they could put together a good, decent pizza.
You ever seen a Japanese pizza?
It's pretty bad.
It's whack.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they will be able to build nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
So faster than they can build a pizza. All right. So, okay. All right. So fine. Joe Biden goes down, whatever. So Kamala Harris is on the ticket, yada, yada, yada. She gets just absolutely murdered. Donald Trump comes in and says, "Hey, fucking Taiwan, yeah, what did you give us, blah blah blah," and stuff like that. That just encourages the Chinese to try it too. So I don't see a good way out of this.
Depends. It depends.
Maybe.
I'm not arguing on behalf of Donald Trump or anything like that, or saying that he has some, fucking ace up his sleeve. I'm just saying in terms of, all right, the fallout, basically the fallout of doing that as China is something that, here's how I see this. Okay, so let's take a look at other groups that have grown and expanded the way that they have, right? And then didn't have what it took to actually keep that in place, right?
Well, there's lots of examples of that, yeah.
Right, and so
So it might be a Mussolini kind of thing.
could be, or it could be, to for their situation, they could see themselves as a version of Rome in the Asia area. Or you could look at this and say, like, all right, well, you guys have pressed it really hard, like the British Empire, upon whom the sun never set. Well, yeah, the sun sets on those guys pretty fucking early, because it's like one time zone y'all jokers live in now with that little island. I mean, this is sort of what I'm driving at here. Is I don't necessarily see China going out with a bang. This is sort of like a whimper situation. Right?
Okay, I agree with that.
That's really where I'm seeing this here. Is these guys are going to expend the trouble they just caused this generation that was already in trouble, right? You've got to devote so many internal resources to basically bailing out your boat.
So it's the internal collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree that that's probably the most likely outcome.
The one thing that they have going for them at this point, right, is in those other empires, right, especially going back, when you would have these internal problems, the other thing that you'd have is barbarians would come knocking on your door when it was sailing.
You don't have to worry about that. There's
don't
not
have
that many Russians. Yeah.
Oh, there's not that many Russians.
The Mongols are cool.
Mongols are cool.
Mongols
You
are cool.
subjugated
Yeah, okay.
them. I've got it. Right. And the only threat that I would say that you have right there is is India. But I don't think there's anything like that that's going to happen with
There's all
this
that.
opportunity.
So like no. My biggest concern is that like China Xi Jinping pokes freaking hair boy in. Yeah.
But then again, when I flip it around here, I say like, all right, so why would I worry about him being poked versus the dipshit that's in charge right now being poked, who's actually, instigated a lot more of these troubles?
No, I'm talking about Kim Jong-un. Yeah.
So, I mean...
That's the guy that I worry about, man. So, because, I mean, he could level Seoul in an afternoon. That changes everything.
Sure does.
That changes everything.
It absolutely does.
Yeah. So... I don't know, man. I think it'll work out.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, I'll look at it a little bit more long term than some of the other guys that I listen to who are like, oh, well, if China takes Taiwan, it completely chokes off the entire. It was like, well, actually, no, that encourages both South Korea and Japan to get nuclear weapons. Vietnam is no friend of China, never will be.
No.
It just means that the Philippines will actually sink all those fucking Coast Guard, I'm using dick finger ships, kind of thing.
Emphatically, yes.
Emphatically. Question is, do we actually get involved at that point in time?
The question is if it's necessary. If it's not, I mean,
might be.
Again, I don't.
I think there's a better chance of Donald Trump not getting involved with that than Joe Biden. So, because I've come around to your position the last couple of weeks that, all right, so Joe Biden does push some buttons, but I don't think he pushes the important ones anymore. I saw his whole thing with the where was he? He was up in Ohio. That was, bro, get that guy off the stage, man. Dude, he needs a nice warm bed, a warm beach, cup of milk. Come on, man. We treat our elders better than that. Come on, man. So
We do. Look, this is
I feel pity for him now. I really do.
Look, the
So there's this like branch of the Democratic Party that just needs to be excised from it. It needs to be excised. It needs to be cut off. So, because they have like this like really weird kind of like fucking god dang, almost like neurotic, reaction towards like anything that's opposed to them, and they're losing everything. So
look, this is the
they
thing.
should not be in control.
This is their problem, right? Is they look at that cadre of people, right? That very vocal group of,
Yes.
of which a lot of influential people in media and stuff, including
They're
movies and
losing
stuff.
it, man.
Well, this is the thing: is they view that as a cyst. It's not. It's a malignant tumor.
Exactly. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's
yes.
the problem.
Yes.
Right. And so when you're looking at the way, okay, again, it's certain things where it's like you knew not to cross this boundary, right? Like you're talking about the reasonable person that is neither Republican nor Democrat, but they've agreed to a certain amount of societal things to say,
Yeah.
you know what, you're right. I like having street lights. I like having yeah, it is.
I don't want to get stabbed going to the Walgreens. Yeah.
Right. I don't want to put in my credit card number if there's a fire. Right. That's not stuff that where they say it's okay. We'll privatize everything. Right. But
Oh yeah, no, yeah, totally right.
So there are plenty of people that agree on this, but there's this thing where how do you get people in the comfortable middle off the sidelines? And the shit that will drive people off the sidelines is, okay, everything's okay. Then they get this little sheet here that says, wait, what is it that they want to teach my kid in school? Right? This is the stuff where...
Right, yeah. Well, that's where the border was really important the last couple of weeks. And all of a sudden it turns into a Taylor Swift fest, and like nobody gives a shit about that. It's like, hey, man, I don't want to drive down the street every single week, like worrying about whether or not my kid's going to come home from school. So...
A great point. And that's the stuff is
Yeah.
you were A-okay with it, but too much of this is actually it's
way too far.
easy to ideologically hold when there's no proximity to it.
Right.
Right? That's why you're seeing
I
this
agree.
fucking mutiny happening in New York City. That's why you're seeing, things in Chicago where the black community is fucking furious.
Curious. Yeah, well, same thing down in Texas. If you look at any like majority Hispanic community right there, they're like, hey,
Oh, yeah,
fuck this.
yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, eventually you flip it over a little bit. And so, I don't know, man. So the thing that's fucking funny about this is you see some of these far right guys too.
Yeah.
Just want to flip the whole thing over and fucking burn it down so I can shoot my neighbors.
Yeah.
Jumping on board with that. It's like, stop talking about Taylor Swift. That's not the problem.
No.
Yeah,
You look like an asshole when you do
you look
that.
like an asshole. You look like some fucking angry dude, who just never got what you want. And stop that. All right,
It's seriously, it's
get us
like
back where we need to be.
it's like you're watching this brilliant presentation. You've been sitting here an hour in the auditorium.
It's all about gold.
Right, and you've been clapping along with these points, and the dude's about to wrap it up. You're like, this is brilliant. This guy made a lot of great points. And at hour 101, right, the guy stops and says like, now let me tell you how this all ties into the Jews. Right.
Yeah,
So
I just want my access to the space laser.
exactly.
Yeah.
And when you go into Taylor Swift and
Totally
Travis,
right.
Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce as being this big quote unquote psyop, right? Like, dude, don't do this to yourself. There's some shit that's just fucking organic, right? Sometimes when you sit there and see, like, all right, so this person is dating this person because they have some kind of, I don't know, no person in science has ever been able to define what attraction is or what that, means.
Sure.
Right? So why even question it? It's there, right? Now, if you don't like it in your football, fine. I don't either, right? I don't care. It's
Yeah,
something
I
where.
mean, like Tom Brady and Giselle did fine for years. I mean, come on, man.
But then again, she
Let's give
wasn't.
it a little bit of point that like might be genuine. And, like, why do we have to turn this into a political point, man?
Well, no, it was like when Tony
yeah.
Romo was dating Jessica Simpson. Right?
Absolutely, yes, exactly like that. Yes,
Right.
so whatever, let it happen.
Yeah.
So, but still, why are you trying to like use this to crowd out like an important discussion that we were actually having last week? So yeah, I don't get it either, man.
No, it's just news. It's the fire hose of news. So I mean, like the problem that we're having didn't go anywhere. It didn't get resolved. So
no, and it's not going to.
So since it didn't get resolved, it's going to flare up again. So
well, it didn't turn into civil war last fucking weekend, so we got to move on to something else.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So and it's like, well, actually, it'd be really nice to see how this actually pans out in the Supreme Court. Oh no, we can't do that. We got to talk about something else now. It's like, God damn it, motherfuckers, shut the fuck up. So
hey,
like,
man.
I'm sorry, you lost my attention here. I'm going to pay attention to this. We'll see how it pans out. So, and the whole thing with the border is actually a really interesting legal question. So let's.
That's what I said. There's
yes,
brilliant points on both sides.
Yes,
that's what I said before. Like that was my whole point. Was you got to refuse to bake the two dick cake before it can actually go to the court, and that's what it is.
Yes,
yeah. So now, granted, there's a time period.
Got to have something where they stand on it, and then it's like, all right, let's let the adults sort it out. Come on,
right, right. And so if the Supreme Court is saying like, all right, and until this point, this is our decision, but between the point where you say I'm not gonna bake that thing, there's a time period in between before that gets resolved, right?
Correct.
And there was a question about whether people were going to overstep any boundaries in between. They didn't. They still might. But but I doubt it because it would be political suicide. There's nothing to gain by it.
Well, yeah,
nothing to gain.
So, and like, and that was my point that I was trying to make a couple of weeks ago. Is like, so the boys who signed up for the Texas National Guard are not going to fucking point guns at the 101st Airborne. Come on, man. They're all on the same team. So, you're not wearing blue, you're not wearing gray here. So, okay. So, obviously, this is something that needs to be sorted out somewhere else. Okay? Got it. Let's do that. Let's see how that pans out. Okay? Because both sides have really good, legit points here.
They absolutely do.
They absolutely do, but still at the same point in time, this is a nation of laws. We respect that. And if we don't, okay, then maybe we'll talk about that. But we have to actually let that pan itself out first. So,
yeah, and I mean, I can point to isolated incidents, and I can sit there and say, like, this is a miscarriage of justice, or you choose to ignore this, or you choose to prosecute this. Yes, of course, I can sit on this all day, every day, and I'd like to think that there are smarter people, appealing and pushing these things through. Like, I'm going to put this the Carroll defamation, victory over Trump. This is such bullshit.
It is,
and
no, I agree.
There's a mountain of appeals on this one here, and they're all valid.
It's fine. It'll sort itself out.
But it's that.
I'm just curious what Donald Trump said to actually piss off that jury that much, or if they were just like fucking New Yorkers, because every New Yorker that I've ever known fucking hates Donald Trump. Look, that's the point. Yeah, it's like all right. So this is not exactly where we stand. It's just where these guys from Queens stand. So, that's fine. Let it sort itself out. So, and then she said, I'm going shopping. It's like, okay. It's just like, it's just completely showboat on certain levels. So, but still at the same point in time, it'll, bro, it's a wash machine. It washes all the wash. You put wash in it, it comes out eventually. It just doesn't want to do it in 15 minutes. You have to wait for 45. Give it some time.
No, especially when you decide that you're going to wash everything in one load.
Well, if you're going to put your you might have invert in there.
Fucking don't get it twisted. Fucking like delegates are going in there with the work boots, and that's
exactly,
that's what your feed is, right? That's what your actual news feed is. It's filthy.
Oh God! Speaking of news feed. You and I talked about this over there in the hallway the other day.
What?
Bro, I've been looking into getting a couple more board games.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say guns. All right, so no,
No, I'm good on guns.
Okay.
I got plenty of guns. So,
All right.
the board game community is fucked. It is,
You hate this.
it is fucked. It's train forums all over again, man.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
it is. It's absolutely fucked. So I've been like trying to find some new ones to play and stuff like that, and it is all full of social justice and why don't you like my bird game? So I was like, because it sucks. Not fun, Stop preaching to me how I should like this game because you designed it. I'm sorry, man. Yeah. So we talked about this a little while ago.
Did somebody do something recently that got you? Was there an example recently that fucking got
I
your
went back
craw?
and looked at some of the old channels that I used to watch. And they were so good, especially during COVID. They were like, yes, everybody's stuck at home, play board games. And I was like, yes, I'd love to do that.
That makes perfect sense.
It makes
Why
perfect
didn't I
sense
think of
to me
it?
now. And then all of a sudden, it just got completely overrun with social justice. And it was like, this game is the most boring thing that I've ever seen. So, but you, Mr. or Mrs. I don't know, guy, lady here tells me why this is awesome. And I was like, I wouldn't play this game.
Right.
And it takes 6 hours to play. Okay, got it. So, I'm sorry, man. I went back, and you and I were talking about it a couple weeks ago. I just went back and looked at some, and I was like, this review is so good. This game looks so awesome. And then 1 year later, complete meltdown. So, yeah. I was like, cool. It's train forums.
Well, and that's it's the slightest transgressions that end up causing the biggest problems, where it's like, you didn't consider this, why is it like this, why representation, blah 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 blah. It's like, you know what, I don't feel like answering these questions. I don't feel it.
Nah.
But that's the thing is,
I ain't got time for this,
yeah.
and I'm not gonna drop $60 on this game. Yeah, man.
There's just a the
It's like,
problem.
why can't I have a place where, like, just kind of like really want to know what's good, as opposed towards what you think is really good for me?
Well, that's sort of that's
Yeah.
that's the issue, right? We accept it somehow, right? Somehow, I don't know how this became public policy, was that anybody that was in possession of a platform, quote unquote, no matter how big or small that platform may be, felt that was their God-given right and time to exercise that and put their political 2 cents in, because that's somehow that's what you're supposed to do.
Well, all right. I've been thinking about this a little bit.
All right.
And so, like, with board games in particular, there's a niche platform. Okay.
Yeah.
And I've been watching this shit for 10 years. So
Probably more.
probably more.
In some capacity, in not necessarily the same capacity that you do now, but you've had an ear to the ground for board games for
Well, I've ducked
20
in and out.
years,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, absolutely. I've ducked in and out. I actually had some like actual paper publications back in the day.
There you go. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and so it's the same thing that you saw with like game reviews on video games. So, but then like once that was completely infiltrated, some of these guys or whatever like started poking over there.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why are you fucking up Warhammer now? I mean,
Great question.
Yeah, this has been around for 20 years. Why do we have to do this now? Yeah, no. Mech Warrior is another good example.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, so this is like nice little enclave of nerds who couldn't get girlfriends, but really enjoyed, like this little slice of their life, at that point in time. And then, of course, all of them grow out of it at a certain point in time, but some people don't.
Right.
And when they don't, then all of a sudden their opinions matter more. So then, people who are just like getting introduced to this, and the same thing was true with train forums. It's like, I like model trains. My dad liked model trains. He taught me model trains, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
model trains becomes this fucking thing where you have to be right about everything every single time, and so you push out all the normies, and then that just leaves this concentrated like slice of bullshit going on here, and so like I went back and I like there's a couple like board gaming channels that I really like.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of them tried to say kind of like, hey, we're a couple guys who get together every single week and we play board games because, we have wives and kids and jobs and stuff like that. But still, it's fun to fucking play, Axis and Allies on the weekends.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there's a whole bunch of people who have neither wives nor children nor jobs. All right. So, but like, I like Axis and Allies too. All right. But I want to insert my transgender ideology into my interpretation of this game.
We can't play the game without discussing how problematic it is.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, no, man, I've got 3 hours before I have to go pick up my kid and go home and make dinner and, like stitch up before I have to go to work tomorrow. So I'm not interested in your ideology. I just want to play this fucking game. And if I play as the Germans because I like playing as the Germans, it doesn't, I'm a goddamn Nazi.
It's not an endorsement of anything. Right.
Right.
Look, this was the very moment that Extra Credits and I parted ways. Was that episode?
I remember. I remember.
But to that end, like, so board gaming. All right.
It's just been such like a nerd, like little like niche thing that you had that you really enjoyed as a kid, and all of a sudden it's like, well, what the fuck is wrong with you, man?
Well, it's not just that. Okay, so take all these niche hobbies that we used to enjoy, right? I'd sit there and I'd talk about things like in the fighting community and stuff like that because it's infiltrated too. The thing was, horribly. But and you got to understand that this used to be a cesspit of the foulest mouths in the business because that was part of the fun. You're talking about people that
it's kind of like reporting people on Call of Duty.
Well, I wouldn't even go that far.
Okay.
So because if you're talking about like a gaming community that used to meet in person, and it was a lot of blacks were in this kind of thing here, so there are certain words that were thrown around all the time and certain attitudes, and you called people this, and you'd say like, oh no, you're a British cigarette and whatnot. It's right. That was part of the game, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, and this goes with board games and stuff like this too, right? Even within those communities, right? It was like an old firehouse where you'd have the younger guys that were competing, right?
Oh, right.
But there were statesmen at the top who'd put in 20 years. And what they said goes, right? There was a seniority system to it where the people on top, they're there because, look, I can't beat the kids anymore, right?
Right, yeah. So I'm going to instruct them.
So
I'm going to be Mr. Miyagi.
Right. I have to, it's the next part of my role, right?
Right.
Now, the thing is, those people, right, the guys that used to basically corral those retards, right, have been pushed the fuck out for in lieu of ideology, right?
Right.
And I'm telling you, without that kind of like decades of experience is what's crucial to these communities, right? They're the ones who keep things organized. They're the ones that like.
Well, and they're the ones who've actually like guided people through. Like, okay, so you're a young man playing this game. Now you're a married man playing this game.
Yes.
Now you have kids playing this game. You can still play this game. Kind of thing. Yeah.
And they're the ones that have like a little bit of like discretionary income at that point too. Like,
true.
Like, yeah, I'm gonna host this con. I'm gonna host this. They're the ones that keep the community going, right?
And they're all the ones who got pushed out. So, because you have guys who were young, grew up, didn't get that job, didn't have those kids, didn't have those relationships. This is all they got. And so this is what I'm going to do now
Right.
because I'm the guy who's no longer a guy. And you better respect my ideology. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's like really disappointing to see that. So,
Well,
and I never went through all the stuff that you did with, like some of the gaming formats and stuff like that, but I always thought that board games was like completely separate from all that. It was just like this thing. It's like model trains.
right.
So it's
Right.
what your dad did, so it's what
Right.
you're gonna do a little bit, but then it just gets infiltrated
It's like
with
woodworking. I mean, it's
Exactly.
you're talking about
Yeah.
something that was basically somewhere between a game and a craft.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Because a lot of those games, including like Warhammer and stuff, there is an artistic element.
Totally.
There's, so
Totally.
there's
You paint all your miniatures and stuff. I did that same thing with naval war gaming.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you had to find just a few people who were interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now it's like, oh, you're interested in that? Yeah. Same thing with board gaming. It got big, and then all of a sudden, it's just like, actually, I just want to play games. It's like, well, you don't play the right games. It's like, what the fuck do you mean the right games?
You don't get to decide that.
Well,
Yeah,
apparently they do. I don't know. Man.
Well, and this is where you see. So, what's been the response to this? Well, people are still making games. They're still making video games. They're still doing stuff like that. But what people have done here is again, the old guard were the ones who were supposed to. They're like your old editors on magazines. Like you'd have people that are like,
That's a good analogy.
well, they were
Yeah,
because
that's exactly what it
you
is.
have people that were hot blooded. They say, hey, I want to report on this. And you're like, you know what? I got you. You did that last week. Okay,
Right.
cool it with this.
Yeah, cool
okay,
it with
it's
that.
pissing people off.
Yeah.
right. But that's
It's
that
driving
the thing
away
was-
people from the sport.
Yep, that
Yeah.
was the thing about how you balance it, right? And you used to have these people, and they're the ones that got chased. Oh, okay. Well, you called somebody a maggot with an F 10 years ago. You're clear. You're transphobic. You're this. You got to go.
Yeah, you're out of the tournament, kid. Yeah.
And all you have left are the loudest voices, basically dominating these spaces. And what happens is
Totally right.
the people that can't tolerate that shit, what do? They just leave.
No, I find different
They just
hobbies.
leave.
Yeah, I'll grow flowers in my backyard where nobody gives me any shit about those. Yeah.
No, and the people that you're left with are the most insufferable people that you could have in a community.
Totally right.
That what happens in a year and a half? Well, at that point, they tear each other apart.
Well, and that's where I saw some of the board gaming community go. So I was just like digging through some videos over the last couple weeks. And the funny thing is you can actually see like which games are actually still popular based upon view counts.
Oh yeah,
But then
yeah.
this person is reviewing this one, and it's just like through the floor. And it's like, okay, so there's a bunch of 45-year-old guys out there who really are interested in this game. You're gonna watch this to learn how to play it, but they don't give a shit about your commentary.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
So
And that's that's the argument you could say like, all right, well, how do I differentiate myself as a reviewer or something like that? Well, what is the argument has always been, and I'll die with this is basically like, well, your perspective on things is the one thing that even if you have an identical twin and you guys have been living the exact same lives, had some kind of weird polyamorous marriage where you married the same person, went to the same university, had the same job, right? There's still a perspective that's unique only to you, and that's what what you need to emphasize.
Sure.
Because it's all that you have. But I would argue at this point that the political spurging at this point is
spurging? What is that?
oh boy. All right. So okay. All right. So
Sorry, this is a Twitter term that I'm not familiar with.
yeah, well, not
Yeah, okay.
they don't love it, but I mean, so all right. So I'll give it to you this way. So the root word of spurging is Asperger.
Oh, okay.
So just you can take that from there. You can divide that.
Yeah,
and
okay,
say,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So the actually my favorite one that I saw this week. You remember we were talking about those border Mexicanos that don't really love the new guys coming in.
Right, Tejanos, yeah.
Well, the best term that I saw was squatamalans.
Oh, come on, man. That's brutal. That's brutal.
But anyway, but I would argue at this point the novelty of your political diatribe is so basically played out that I would say that is not. You would have to have such a unique bend on things to be interesting at all, right? So much to the point where the
Well, that just pushes the envelope in that direction. Yeah.
well, or anything like that, or if your whole take on this was like, look, we won't have that here, right? We're
Okay.
not going to have this. But even then, there's a group of people that do that too, right? So as of right now, like just the diatribing, mixing that with your work is just it's tired. It's there's
Sure.
nothing I can gain. All right. So number one, if you're going to give me some sort of political interpretation within a board game, I guarantee you that your discussion on this is going to be as entry level and basically uh, free of insight, genuine insight as possible. It's going to be
Yeah,
surface
sure.
level,
Yeah.
like, dude,
Well,
this
imagine
is
somebody.
obvious.
Well, yeah, I imagine somebody like who's 25 years old trying to write a new version of colonization. That's
Right.
exactly what you get.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. Now you could flip. Now, one of the things that you always run the risk of having trouble with is, you do. It's the Archie Bunker effect, where you turn around and say like,
Oh,
"Yeah,
right. Yeah.
I made this to point out the,"
And murder all the Indians. Yeah.
and people end up having a great time with it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
That is the one.
You get all the silver. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That has happened several times, and you know what? God bless you.
Well, and
That's
Sid Meier was a little guilty of that, but yeah, sure.
well.
I mean, come on, a little bit.
He was, but I mean, it's not as though
There was no malicious intent there, so it's
there
just what he
absolutely
understood.
wasn't. There,
Yeah.
and likewise, there was no. If I'm going to go back, we'll do this. Okay, so we'll analyze the original colonization game, right?
Okay.
I would argue that that was told essentially as neutrally as you can, right? Because he didn't make out the Indians to be bad guys, right? As a matter of fact, right, that most of the time they were
Depending on the
pleasant.
difficulty you played. So, I mean, they were like basically a slider. And so, if you wanted to play on the higher difficulties, they were instantaneously hostile. But that just served to make the game more difficult. So, yeah.
Right,
He had
right.
no like intent about like, oh, you should exterminate all the Indians. Like he didn't
Not
like
at all.
you couldn't trade blankets with them laced with like fucking smallpox.
Absolutely. And the things that you could do, right, in that area had consequences. You could look for those burial mountains, you could piss people off, right? And that sort of thing. And likewise, the presentation of the Europeans was just
Well, you
here.
couldn't be like more snobbish towards the king. Yeah, I mean, it was like, yeah, kiss my pinky ring, fucking
Absolutely.
bitch. Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right.
exactly.
Because that was played up as sort of a political cartoon. I mean,
It
that
was.
was
Yeah,
shit, that
no,
was
you're right.
the visual design of it, I would argue was the artistic
Well, he's a
style.
fat guy with like little skinny legs.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
The same thing goes with all the founding fathers, all that stuff that was the artistic design. I would argue within that
He had some pretty horrifying founding fathers in there, though. Like you could get Cortez, which would give you twice as much shit if you actually murdered off fucking villages. So, but still, at the same point in time, I see that as a guy.
your choice. Your choice.
Your choice. But if you got him, if you had the chance to get him, you got him because you knew you were gonna do that. So, I mean, that's like where, like, you know. I'm not gonna blame that on Sid Meier. So he
No.
probably just like looked at like fucking Encyclopedia Britannica and said, "Oh, okay, this guy was badass and did all this stuff, and so let's put that in the game." Okay, fine. All right, and so maybe nowadays games have a little bit more nuance to them in some respects, but they've gotten a little bit crazy too, you know, on some of that stuff, you know, where it's like, oh, okay. So, like, CK2 is a good example of this. If you want to go out there and murder the Nation of Islam in the cradle, you can
Yeah.
do it. Yeah. So, but still, at the same point in time, I mean, I played Hearts of Iron 4. And so, if you want the Confederate States of work.
This is, again, this is
So, I mean, which is weird, but still at the same point in time, it's also doable. Maybe not with enough context.
but that's not the context is never in terms of endorsement. It's never in terms of it's
Depends on the game, though, man. I mean, if you're trying to build a straight up game where you can do whatever you want to do, that's a different thing. If you want to play Papers, Please, there's obviously a anti-communist thing
well, no,
going
no,
on.
no, no, I got you there, right? Because that's the game. But I mean,
Right,
if
right,
you're
right.
talking about
Yeah.
within the realm of basically like sandboxing within a historical time period, right?
Sure.
Where you're free to change history as you see fit.
But the
right?
argument is, if you design a game like that, should you actually put bumpers on the fucking like the bowling alley?
You're asking me, I say no. But
No, and I mean Hearts of Iron was totally that way. You could play as fucking Hitler if you wanted to.
right,
Yeah. Okay.
right,
Yeah.
right. And again, I don't have a problem with that because you know what it is. You're not doing this. It's not something where you're not unlocking achievements that say,
Manifest Destiny.
well, you're not sitting there like you're not playing.
Oh
and then
no, that was a Red Dead 2 achievement.
Yeah, so it's not like you're playing that and then you hear the little Steam sound and in the corner it pops up final solution, right? It's not something like where
Palestine is free. Yeah, okay. All right.
but you get it, right? That would be endorsing us. That would be like, unless you had such a tongue-in-cheek like sense of humor on this to pull this off with some kind of grace, which fuck it, dude. Like the most talented writers I can think of would struggle to do that, right? But if you did this just in terms of like an open, I was like, look, here's the board. What you're talking about here is it's up to you to decide your alternate.
All right, but to be fair, I don't think Sid Meier was doing that.
No.
So no, he was like, all right, so colonization and building a new nation is a good thing. So the whole thing behind the revolution and stuff like that, you were always playing as the good guy, regardless of what nation you played.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right. So that's a fair criticism there. Yeah. Okay.
It is again, and that's to that end. I mean, again, it's not to say that you can't look at this. I'm fuck it, dude. Like, what's the end sequence of that game?
Oh, with the guys with the hats and stuff.
And the fireworks and all that other
And the
stuff.
fireworks,
So, I mean,
yeah,
you could
yeah,
sit there and say, like, all right, well, this isn't showing any of the, devastating impacts of colonization and blah, blah, blah. Like, all right, that's fine. But that's a different game.
Well, that's a good point that he made in the second version that was Sid 4, where you could choose to have slavery or, like, right to bear arms and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it had no, like, bearing in the final game. So it's just like, what kind of nation you want to build. So, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was...
well, they had effects on the war, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, they had different bonuses. They had different...
You're right.
Yeah. When you declare and you say, we're going to do this, these are the benefits that you get.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just like introducing a little twinge of politics into your game. So, which is totally different than where board games have gone now. So...
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
And even that is... I would argue that those things are more of a discussion point than they are a...
Sure.
Than they are a soliloquy, right? It's you can look at it and say, like, there's this part you have to cross and say, slave country, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
Let me think about this.
Now, again, it's not something that you're supposed to mull over, but there's a part of you where you can put yourself in that shoe and say, in those shoes, and say, all right, maybe for the nation at this time, I know where this goes. I know that there's fights about, okay, so...
But not my problem, because this game ends in 1776. Yeah, right, yeah.
Or,
so I'll just take the bonus
right.
towards the end.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's again, it's there if you want it. It's easy to turn off if you don't. And that's my point, is you can make games that have a strong political bend. That's totally okay. That's your creative design.
As long as you know... Well, yeah, okay. Yeah. I don't know, man. That's not where I see the board game community going with my latest foray into that.
Yeah.
So, they've moved away from the traditional Euro games, where it's like, okay, let's make the most efficient war game that we can. That's really
Right.
fun to play.
Right.
It has
Right.
like really good organization stuff. Actually, I want to buy one of those, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So, but still, at the same point in time, now it's like, oh, let's do this game that has to do with cotton trade. Okay, and it's like, well, I can't play it the way that you don't want me to play it.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
so let's you're not teaching me anything here other than your viewpoint. So, that doesn't make it a game. That makes it a lecture.
No,
So, yeah.
it's basically like every revisionist version of Monopoly,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Whereas like, oh, I'm sorry. If you're a landlord, you're bad.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying is you're not presenting things. It's like
Right.
it doesn't take me long to figure out your secret code here.
Yeah, exactly. So wait
Right.
a minute. Community chest is me paying into single payer healthcare? Got it.
This is what I'm talking about. Is like
Yeah.
and look, all right, again, if that's your version of things, that's fine, right? But what I don't need you to do is say that that needs to be the official version of Monopoly,
Correct.
or inject that bullshit into like trains. It's like, no, man, if you want to make a special version of this, by all means, and you can go ahead and create this subreddit if you want to, right? But get the fuck out of this one,
Out of this one, yeah.
because that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
That ain't gonna happen. No, it's stupid, and that's the
Well, I mean, some of that came from like a lot of World War II games where there was this like fantasy of like the Germans actually winning. You know, it's just kind of flipped over to the other side now. Yeah.
nobody does that. Nobody does that for the purpose of saying, "Wow, the wrong side really won here," right? And I'm
Yeah,
gonna
well,
and I'm gonna correct that.
Yeah, no, you couldn't implement the
That's
final
not-
solution in
it's not
Axis analysis.
fucking
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Got to roll 3 6s on this.
You got to roll all six. I don't know. That's what I'm saying here.
But there's an element of that old war game community that came from that. So it was just like Germans have cool tanks, they have cool guns, they have cool uniforms. I think they could win, but there's no consideration behind the political implications of that.
Well, fuck that. Why? So much media is still, done with the purpose of saying this is the alternate version where the Nazis did win. Right?
Oh yeah, well yeah, fucking Man in the High Castle.
So
Wolfenstein, yeah.
obviously this is something that is part of the cultural zeitgeist. So I mean,
It is.
why that's not an extension of board games where it's like, but somehow this is strange, or
Sure.
when you play as Nazis, you legitimize Nazism and you become Nazism.
No, you're right.
Via,
You're right.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh man, you guys write this bullshit all the time. Like,
No, man, I'm gonna play this side because I drew it out of the box. Fuck off.
are you throw it out of the box, or you're like, again, I like these uniforms. I like this scenario. It's like, you know what? I'm sort of up against a difficult scenario. I think I can do this.
Sure.
I'm playing a game, right? There is no. What fucking idiots, go in there and they say like, all right, well, actually, we're playing Axis and Allies, and in order to participate, everybody must come in period appropriate attire, and they must.
Well,
Some
I'm not
people
gonna say
probably
it
do.
doesn't
I don't-
exist, man. I mean, like,
I think it's a non-zero answer, but I mean, it's,
yeah, but bro, I actually went to a Civil War reenactment, and there were some guys.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. I mean, there was a little piece of it. It was like, well, the South will rise again. And it's like, but they didn't, So we're just gonna have
Right.
fun, But then
Right.
sometimes it's like, well, maybe I could do it right and kill General Grant. I don't know, man. I mean, so like that's why I'm not too surprised that after the video game community, it bled over to the war game community, or I mean the board game community. Then it bled over into like, well, you should like this design because this person or that person designed it with this lesson in mind. It's like, well, actually, I just like to play a good game, thanks. So, and your game is bad because if I don't agree with your ideology or whatever it is, then apparently I'm bad too. So, okay.
Well, again, it's the same thing where they're making what is it, a new Harry Potter TV show, and
Oh, really?
yeah,
Oh,
and that's the thing where they're saying like, well, anybody who doesn't oppose this is not a trans ally. I'm like, you know what? There's no greater badge of honor that I would wear right now because you guys are fucking
yeah,
insufferable.
exactly.
I don't necessarily disagree with your point, but the way you make it is so asinine that I want nothing to do with you. And again, if you could point to me one instance in the text that specifically addresses transphobia or even hints at it,
Oh, and Harry Potter.
okay, we've got maybe a talking point. But you've read them all cover to cover. Is there anything like that in there?
They are the most tolerant, most inclusive books from that entire area. So, but that's just the point, man. It's just like, oh, it's not good enough. So it's like, compared to what? You know? Yeah. I don't know. I don't get that, man.
Especially when, okay, again, and this is the fight that I get into, and this is where like nobody's been able to counter my point at this stage, right? Is look, I'm just gonna say it like this. Once a person turns 18, right, I do not care what they do,
No.
right? At that point, it's a personal decision, do whatever you want. However, right, what you do not have control over is objective reality. You can believe what you want. You cannot force me to believe that, right? And you can't force me to
No,
acknowledge
no,
that,
no. You
right?
made that point many, many times. Like, yeah, it's like, I don't know, man. That's probably becoming a little bit more of the mainstream view now.
Well, and that,
So you have a small minority of people who, I don't know, man. This is a bigger discussion behind
yeah.
this, but still at the same point in time, they ain't winning. So they ain't winning at all. So I saw that whole thing last couple days about what's her name, the swimmer trying to get into the
Oh,
Olympics.
yeah.
Facing pretty substantial like pushback. So, I mean, eventually we got to get to the point in time where we actually decide this as a society. I think it's getting closer than it was before. And there's going to be a lot of that going on this summer. So, it's just like, actually, do we want to be in wars? Let's talk about
Me
this.
personally,
Let's talk about this. Let's not just let you guys decide. So, and there's other pieces of it. It's like, you know what? Yeah, we actually do have a say in what's going on around here. And so, you know what? Fucking sign up. Get out there, vote. So, make yourself known. Don't back down to these guys who are going to bully you into certain positions. Okay, you're not on Twitter. That's fine. It doesn't mean you have to, like, take whatever your HR department wants you to do.
no.
And like, a lot of it is like COVID PTSD too, where people are just like, fuck that. I want to get back to work. I just, I don't want to worry about all this shit. I don't want to sit here and watch whatever you're feeding me on Netflix or Apple TV or whatever. It was like, I got shit to do. I got friends out there. I want to go see them. I got kids who are in school. I don't want to worry about what they're studying. So,
No, you don't. You don't.
and it's like everybody, like, COVID wasn't that long, 2 years.
Right.
Everybody remembers before. Okay, and everybody's like, you know what? Yeah, I like going out to restaurants. So, I don't mind going to concerts. So I got a job. I got people that I like working with, stuff like that. It's just like, hey, let's just get back to work. Because I want a new patio just like everybody else. So, and I want to like get back on my feet. I want to get my career going. I want to make sure that my kids are going to good schools. I want to, like not have to talk about this shit every turn that I take. Rather talk about football or, yeah, there's just like chill the fuck out,
Well,
just be cool.
the best way I can
So,
say that is this is where COVID became problematic. This is where transgenderism, certain things.
There's
these
a
things
ton of things. You could list a
Well,
litany of things that we're all supposed to give a shit about, but most people don't.
Well, this is sort of where what I'm driving at here. This is where people get afraid of DEI and everything else like this, right? But people like, I would argue, more than anything else, right, isn't necessarily consistency. It's a trajectory, right? Something where they can point at this and say, all right, I have control of these variables,
Yep.
right? And things appear to be going in this direction. And what they
Yeah.
don't want, okay, the things that they don't like, this is why COVID fucked people up, because, like, man, did that shit throw off my trajectory. People got sick,
Totally.
right?
I knew people
Now
who
what?
died. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So your trajectory get really fucked up. It's like, oh, well, I'm dead.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all
or
that.
my grandma died, or whatever.
Or my
Yeah,
grandma
yeah.
died, right?
Yeah.
Or this much money was spent treating somebody that was sick, or just like,
Sure.
I kept my job, but my wife didn't, right? These
Yep.
are all things
Yep.
that mess it up.
There's a little bit of rando going on there.
And the other thing they don't like is they don't like to walk on pins and needles, be like, shit, if I say the wrong thing, I'm gone.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is like, there's if I refer to some, like, if I cause some hubbub and I say he instead of she, is this going to be a big fucking deal, right?
Yeah. Or, well, like, yeah, the same thing is like, well, okay, cops do some bad things, but actually most of them are really fucking good. You know? I mean, yeah.
Why do I have
so-
to make statements against the
Exactly.
cops? Or why is
Yeah.
it?
Why do I have to declare that the land that I stand on is not, like, not soaked in blood? It's like, well, I just bought it 10 years ago. Kind of
Well,
thing.
it's like, okay, so
There's a lot of stuff.
I
like
just
that,
bought
man.
it, and
Yeah.
well, unfortunately, I can also say that the entirety of this planet is not in possession of the original owners. There's been at least like
Right.
some kind of a shift. So why is it that the
Why
most?
do I have to be ashamed about calling myself a Christian? There's a ton of stuff out there.
Well, why is it that it's only the most recent occupants of the territory who are held for the sins of all the ancestors that came before? Is that absurd? It's like, okay,
There's a lot of stuff like that.
I mean, and that's the thing is like I can get you've pointed out many times just as like, Jeffrey, history needs to go, right? So I can get on board with at least some of the presentation of I don't think it needs to go, but there's at least a version of it's like, that version we were taught in third grade,
Right.
maybe that needs a little update.
How about Reconstruction? Reconstruction is for experts only.
I think we said that, right? Because you don't have the nuance to
Right, exactly. The same thing is true about Israel in 1948. That's for fucking experts only. Step the fuck off. You fucking townies, get out of here.
right.
So, same thing. Like, you other townies, like, don't tell me about the Constitution if you didn't go to law school. So, I mean, come on, bro.
I think
there's
that's
a ton of that stuff, man.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me about employment law. So, like fucking hiring practices unless you've actually fucking hired people. Jesus. So, it's just like, don't you... Okay, here's my message for America today.
All right, we'll
This is
close
my-
it. All right.
This is my message for America today. Get a hobby. A real legit hobby. Garden, beekeep, model trains, whatever. It's not on Twitter. So enjoy yourself.
So you're asking people
Get a fucking hobby.
to do something tangible.
Do something tangible. Stop using politics to supplement religion. So just chill the fuck out and have a good time with the people around you.
Well, look,
So
I will also say I will add to this because that's sort of my axiom that ties into yours, right?
Okay.
Is political views or political axiom or activism is no replacement for a personality.
thank you. Put a pin on that, man. I love
There
it.
you go.
I love
Okay,
it.
I've said that before and I mean it
Yeah.
now. Why don't we go ahead? And,
Political views are no replacement.
they're not a replacement for a personality.
I love it, man.
And all you're gonna do is ruin another Thanksgiving with it.
Yeah. So yeah, try harder. Okay. I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
Fucking signing off.
Okay, go ahead.
See ya.